Hello, everyone. Welcome to WagerTalk 101 with Minty Bets and Teddy Covers. This is part two of it's WagerTalk 101, Prez. This is part two of our two-part I Want to Quit My Job and Bet on Sports segment. So if you missed last week's episode, Teddy went over an ideal steps 1 through 3, assuming this is a 1-year plan, and it would be 12 months out to 6 months out. Those steps included things like cutting out expenses, accurate record keeping, specializing in certain sports, bankroll management, all that stuff. So check out episode 1 before you check this one out. Teddy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right, but I think the answer Prez was looking for is WagerTalk's Betting 101 series.
Oh my goodness. It is Thursday, okay, everyone? I'm sorry. WagerTalk Betting 101 is what Prez was looking for. All right, now I received a question from a listener, Teddy, right just before we begin and before I ask you again how you're doing, the other day, and he loved this segment and wanted to ask, in what city or state can you actually realistically, successfully make a living betting on sports 365 days out of the year?
So I grew up in New York, and I went to school at University of Michigan, and I lived in Michigan after I graduated. Mm-hmm. When I decided I was going to bet on sports full-time for a living, I moved to Las Vegas. Oh, in my opinion, there is one. You can make an argument there's enough competition in New Jersey now. You can make an argument there's enough competition in Pennsylvania now. And maybe there is. I haven't tried to bet professionally in those states. But Nevada's number one. Is not close. If you're going to be betting in legalized, regulated sports. Now, there are professional bettors all over the country who bet with bookies and bet at illegal offshore books and all of that. And offshores are technically illegal. Obviously, people aren't getting prosecuted for betting offshore. But, technically, it's a very different betting offshore versus betting in the state of Nevada. So I know there are bettors all over the country who bet at a professional level without living here. But if I'm going to pick one state, it's not close. There's a reason I moved to Vegas. There's
I was assuming Nevada too, but I didn't want to sound closed-minded and be like, Nevada's the best. But yes, you're right. Well, I think Jersey is a close second.
It just comes down to who's got the most books, who has the most different lines you can bet into. And Nevada has way more lines than Jersey or Pennsylvania or any of the other states right now. It's not close. So that's why to me, it's still Nevada and everybody else.
Oh my gosh, don't say Nevada ever again, Teddy. It's Nevada.
Yeah. Okay. I know. It was an accident. I don't know why that came out that way.
Yeah, don't let it happen again. Teddy, is there anything you want to say before we dive into step 4 through 6?
Yeah, this is a two-parter. I encourage you, if you have not watched it, watch part 1. Go back and watch part 1 because that puts us into the place where we are today. Today, we're going to start 3 months out. 3 months from now, you're going to quit your job and be betting on sports full-time for a living. So I wouldn't encourage you doing that.
Yeah.
Before, but this, again, we didn't want to rush it. I want to be able to take time and go through some of the issues. But this is definitely a two-parter where if you missed part 1, you got to go back and see it. The other thing I got to promote the channel and promote the shows. I know that the next Monday, and this is going to be must-watch. This is going to be fun because I get to interview Prez next Monday. Prez is always the one who's interviewing everyone else. And God, some of them are, we love Lawrence. Yes, he's our fearless leader.
This is a Meet the Experts episode where you interview Prez. How were you chosen to interview? Do you guys have the best chemistry, would you say?
Well, Prez and I we did a show together for 2 years. So, we've worked together. But Prez also knows, in asking me to ask him the questions, that I'm, and I think Carmine may well join it. Carmine Bianco is going to join us as well. But my goal is to get Prez to open up about everything. All right. To really, that you guys can know the Prez the way that I know the Prez. So it should be a lot of fun. I'm coming in no holds barred. Okay.
Okay.
I'm coming in like you have a left-wing publication ready to sit down with President Trump for a one-on-one interview. I'm coming in punching. So it should be a lot of fun. Again, next Monday, and those are every weekday at noon Pacific and 3 on the East.
Yes, 3 p.m. Eastern on Mondays. Meet the Experts. That will be very interesting. I will definitely tune in. And for you, those of you that don't know, Lawrence Presman is our fearless leader, and he's the one that posts all the breakdancing videos and then tags us and challenges us to do it, and none of us have ever done it. So it'll be very interesting. Maybe he'll show us some moves on camera this Monday.
As long as there's no worm. I don't want to see the worm again ever.
It looks like it hurts. Anyway, let's get back to business. Teddy, we're diving into step 4, which you said was ideally 3 months out. What are the steps in step 4?
Sure. And look, again, all of our time frames are guesstimates. It's not if it's 2 months out, if it's 4 months out. This is a couple months ahead of time. What I try to do is break it down. This is way ahead of time, then this, then this, then this. This is when you're a couple of months out, all right? The things that you need to get done, you have to set up your books at this stage. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of setting up your books, you're taking a lot of the knowledge that we talked about that you gained earlier in the process, which is one of the steps we talked about is learn your books. Know the difference between William Hill and Pinnacle. There are books that are going to cater to recreational bettors and that are kick out wise guys. There are books that are going to cater to wise guys. There are books that are going to have low limits. There are books that are going to have high limits. There are books that are going to post the opening football lines on Sunday night. There are books that won't post them until the markets are settled Monday at noon. You want to know that. Learn the nuances of the lines, who posts what, when, what type of first bets they take, which teams are popular with wise guy bettors, which teams are likely to be popular with public bettors. You're going to practice. You practice getting the best of the number every time, in terms of when you're going to get your bets down. You don't need to fully fund all your books at this point, but get them open, learn about them, and get used to using them. Books, and this is something that's very real that I hear it all the time, the bookmaker's your enemy. The bookie's your enemy. I see guys that are filled with vitriol towards the books. They're not your enemy, okay? They're your conduit because you can't make your living if they don't exist.
Right.
All right.
True.
So, the books are a tool for you to use to make your money. They're not your enemy. It's not about how, and when you're taking shots at books, take shots at books that you don't necessarily want to use in the future.
Okay. Good tip.
So the books aren't your enemy. You can't make your living if they don't exist. You want to know your offshores versus your bookies versus your legalized, regulated books. Again, fund your accounts. Don't expect to make a living on credit offered from bookies or from any of that type of stuff. This is the time you don't have to fund them fully, but put something into your accounts, get used to using them, get used to the systems, et cetera, et cetera. And that's pretty much something you want to do a couple of months out from when you're going to be starting to bet seriously and full time.
Right. Beautiful. All right. Next step to that step.
Well, and this is the time where you really want to be doing your preseason research. Okay. Yeah. And when I'm talking 3 months out, I'm talking 3 months out. You know why you want to do it 3 months out? Because everyone else is doing it 1 month out. Okay. And it doesn't matter what sport. If you say, I'm going to start doing baseball, all right. I'm going to start betting baseball. You say, I'm going to start betting spring training baseball. Great. Have your research in December and January so that you're ready for training camps to open in February. Say, all right, I'm going to do college hoops this year. I'm specializing in college hoops. Great. Camps open. They have the Midnight Madness in October. You know who's on that rosters and when you're following things in September and in August, from the start of camp. Preseason research, this is absolutely the time to be doing that and doing that on a serious day in, day out basis. And of course, this is also your time, if you're going to get down your future bets, to get down future bets in whatever sports you're working on. You'll be way ahead of the market when you're doing your work well in advance, whether it's season over under win totals, whether it's odds to win divisions, whether it's odds to win the whole thing. Doesn't matter what sport it is. The further out you're making future bets, and again, the books have to hold that money. The books will hold that money for a long time, but the further out you make those bets, the more, A, the better lines you're going to get, and B, the more chance you have of beating the market and getting a maximum return on your investment should those bets cash. So, 3 months out, you want to set up your books and you want to start doing your work for the sports that you're working on. That, to me, the two key elements in place over, let's say, the prior to the last month before you really do your job and do this.
Right. Beautiful. Step 4, done. Preseason research and set up your books. Step 5, say maybe a month out before finally beginning. What is step 5?
Well, the first thing I wrote is take a vacation, take a
Mm-hmm.
road trip. You're not going to get one for a while.
Yes, very true.
Okay. You don't want to be taking vacations. Your first year
During.
doing this full time, don't expect to take a vacation. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So get a break. Whatever it is, take your break.
Mm-hmm.
And do it real. Take it in a sense where, I mean, I'm someone in doing this now for 20-something years. Normally, I take as much of July off as I can. I go a hard 11 months, and the 12th month, I try to breathe a little bit and but when I go on vacation, I'm not bringing my laptop. I'm not chicken
Mm-hmm.
lines every day. You have to get you have to be able to take some of that.
Clear your thoughts. Yeah.
Clear your thoughts. So, go to the beach, go to Disney. I don't care where you go, but do something, go camping, get out of town. That last month, take your breaks. Say, all right, when I come back, now we're fully focused and ready to go.
Yep. Good tip.
So
good tip.
That's,
Okay.
that to me is the number one key. When you're a month out, a couple weeks out, whatever it is, get your break because you're not going to have one. So
That's right. All right. Next up, what's next?
Well, and this is so key with things that we've already worked on. We put together our follows already 6 months ago, 9 months ago. We went back and we got all of it. We would follow after follow after follow. And of course, Twitter is the key for sports betting, much more so than Instagram or many of the other social networks. You get your follows. So in that last month before the preseason, everyone's reading preseason guides. Let's just use football, for example. Everyone's getting their their Mark Lawrence or their Phil Steele or whatever it is, and they're reading their Sporting News or Sports Illustrated. All that stuff was printed months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Months ago. Your competition is, at least some of them are reading outdated stuff.
Yeah.
Be sure you're reading the daily training camp reports for the local writers that you have already followed. That's where you're going to get your info. All the info, the mainstream info, the info that other people have, you already have that. It's in your rearview mirror now. That's already in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be working on the nuance of what's going on right now. So be sure. Don't worry about the big previews 3 months out. You've read that stuff. You know that stuff. You're looking at the daily writer, the beat writers, and the daily info to give you more of this team's going to be a bet on right from the get-go versus maybe this team's going to be a bet against right from the get-go. Those who are looking at outdated information aren't going to have those same nuances that you have. So, I mean, this is, that last month, every day you're reading the daily reports from the local writers. That's where you're getting your best information.
Okay. And last step to this step.
We got to talk about psychologically here again. And we're talking a lot about psychology in terms of being prepared to bet full time for a living, because it can be a roller coaster. And if you're not, you don't have the correct, you don't have the, just say correct, because it's not a correct. If you don't have the appropriate psychological makeup for this particular line of work, you're not going to succeed. Mm-hmm. So you have to get your brain in order. Find a hobby or something to turn to when you need it. When I first started betting on sports, my hobby was poker. I'm like, all right, I want to get out of, I'm not going to, and it was a fine hobby because I could focus on it. I could get my mind off the sports, and it was something other than another skill that I was learning at the time. So I'm like,
So your hobby was to get away from sports gambling was another form of gambling.
Yes, it was. And it was fine because when I was doing that, it is two different forms of gambling. All right.
Yes.
So it's both gambling, but they're two very different forms of gambling in the sense of,
yes, very different.
They're both areas in which an educated and sophisticated bettor can have an edge. Mm-hmm. But breaking down sports bets and percentages in sports bets is a little bit different from breaking down percentages in poker and the skills that you're honing when you're working on poker. The whole point of poker, for me at least, when I was as a casual player, was it would be something I could do that I could be fully focused on and not thinking about sports for a little while, whatever that is. I mean, I ride my bike. I go for a bicycle ride. That's another thing I can do. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not crazy, I
Yeah.
smoke and ride, so I'm not like, riding up mountains or anything. But that's another thing that, that gives you something, burns off a little energy, something else you can do that will allow you to get a break from sports betting. Because the whole thing about this, it's
Right.
morning, noon, and night. It's days, it's
Mm-hmm.
weekends, it's weekdays. It's, there's not your normal time off. You don't
Mm-hmm.
get your weekends to recuperate, to get back to go to work
Yep.
on Monday. It's just not how it works. So you have to find something that'll get you away from sports betting for at least some period of time. It doesn't have to be every day, a couple times a week,
Yeah.
whatever it is. But when you need it, it's there. So
Yes.
find a hobby.
Absolutely. Yes.
Uh,
Mine is gardening and bird watching. So that's
sure, exactly, perfect. And when you're gardening, you're not thinking about the games, and you get a break for a couple,
exactly.
an hour or two, or however long you garden for, and then
It's
you can get
nice.
back to the grind and you come back refreshed.
Yes.
That's very rare.
Very thin. Yes.
Yeah, gardening, great.
Yes.
Catch up on your sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Important.
easy enough to say. One of the things I do every July, I just sleep like crazy. Because I know that at least I try to sleep like it. It doesn't always work, but I get a nap in. I'll go to sleep early. I'll sleep late one day. It's inevitable you're going to be short on sleep at some point during the day. Catch up on your sleep
Absolutely.
before. Get all your bills paid ahead of time. If you can, pay a month or two ahead. If not, get the money for those bills and put it separate. So you have, and again, when it comes to, when you start doing this full time, all of a sudden everything's a distraction, including paying bills. So, I like twice a month on a Monday. I'm like, okay, now I'm paying bills. And that's been my strategy from like 30 years. I've been doing that, twice, every other Monday. If I didn't do it last Monday, I got to do it this Monday. But having something like that where you get all your stuff taken care of ahead of time gives you one less distraction from when you start. I wrote here, eliminate distractions in any form. Easier said than done, obviously. But recognize what you are preparing for. It's a test of your mental skills against a worldwide marketplace. It really is. What that's what you're doing, is you're testing your ability in this particular area to pick winners, to beat markets, to understand what teams are going to do against a global marketplace. And it's a challenge. It's an inspiring challenge. So recognize you're preparing for elections, get your rest, find your hobbies. Last but not least, there's one more thing I want to talk about. That's start using a line service a month out, if you haven't done it before. I'm going to talk about our product. WagerTalk and Sports Memo have an excellent line service product.
We do.
There will be a better one coming soon. That's the live lines product that you can now. Again, our competitors have it now. We will have it soon. We will have it, I believe, before football season starts. I think it's 3 months out. Was what they were saying, a couple months out. You're going to need that when you're betting on sports for a living, and the reason is real simple. All right. Yeah, you can have 10 apps open on your computer, or be switching on your phone or whatever. It's so much easier to look at your screen and say, bang, it's 8.5 right there, it's 9 everywhere else. Boom, 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 and you open that book and you make it right there. So it's very convenient, and it gives you a chance to understand. And again, you need to understand in order to do this full time for a living, you've got to understand that marketplace like the back of your hand. You got to know it real well. Getting a line service and spending time with it is something that helps you in that in a big way. So again, you can use the WagerTalk or Sports Memo product. You can use another product. I'm not going to tell you which one to use. I personally like our product a lot for what it's worth. But
I know a lot of people that use our WagerTalk line service, wagertalk.com/livelines, I believe, not up right now because it's under construction and there's also no sports too, right? So, but it's a very, very helpful and very useful line service, which I totally agree.
And there you have it. That's basically leading up to the beginning of your start. That's everything you're going to do going into the day where you give your 2 weeks notice, or you tell your boss, F you, I quit, however you want to do it. But
Teddy, have you ever quit a job like that?
F you?
Yeah, like just stormed off.
I'm sure I must have. In my teen years, I had a lot of jobs. I was one of these, I from age 15 to 20 or something, I had a lot of, I didn't last at many of them. But mostly I just wouldn't show up. It was I would ghost them.
Oh, yeah. I've done that too. I'm glad that you said that, because I felt like an ass.
I don't remember having a blow up and walking out. But I feel like I must have at some point,
I feel like you must have as well. You seem like that guy.
But I'm thinking about it, and nothing's popping out, and I'm sure something would pop out. Maybe I never did. It was much more. I was much for the ghost. Ghosting was my preferred methodology.
Yeah, I don't like confrontation, so I'm just not gonna tell you that I'm leaving, sort of thing.
The time when back in the day when I would quit a job, it'd mostly be because either you're out with your friends, and you're like, oh, I'm too hungover to go in, or something happens where I don't feel like going in, and it's always having fun as opposed to working before working is
yeah.
So yeah. Good memories. I'm glad I do this for a living now. As long as there's sports to bet on, I'm glad I do this for a living.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right, now let's step into step 6. Say we're a month out, a week out, a day out. Teddy, what does that entail, this last step?
No, this is day 1, week 1, month 1 in.
Mm-hmm. Oh, in. Okay, sorry, I did it backwards.
Yeah. This is okay. So day 1, all right, you've quit your job, you've done all the previous steps, you're ready to bet on sports for a living, you're starting with a new season, you're starting mid-season, I don't care when you're starting. There's one thing that you have to remember. This is tortoise and hare stuff. Slow and steady wins this race.
Yes.
It's about bankroll accumulation, not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not. All right? And it's worth noting, most people, when they make the transition, all right, I'm going to do this full-time. I'm going to bet as a professional. They're going to do it at the start of whatever season that of their preferred sport.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, that tends to be the plan, especially when we're talking about planning 12 months out.
Yeah.
You plan to start at the beginning of the preseason of the sport or whatever it is sport that you're trying to do. So with that, remember those week 1 lines, those day 1 lines that are out, especially in football, but even in basketball and baseball where the lines come out early, even for the very first games. Remember, those first lines have already been bet into place, especially for football. Mm-hmm. So your best opportunities may not necessarily be week 1, unless you got a bunch of bets down over the summer for football at numbers that are no longer available. Okay.
Right.
Slow and steady, bankroll accumulation, not quick scores. The first line has been bet into place. And it's also worth noting that after those first games, where the lines have been out for a while and been into place, that won't happen again in any game after opening day until like the Super Bowl, between week 1 and then the Super Bowl. You don't get line chance, more than a week ahead of time. So, and that's really regardless of sport. So don't go crazy on the first week and first day lines. Those are sharper than the lines you're going to see day 2, day 5, day 20, day 40. So early, day 1, week 1, month 1, when you see it, bet it. Okay. If you've been paying attention, you're ahead of the markets.
Okay.
So when you see it, don't dawdle. When you see something, you say, I made this number 2 and I thought it should be 2 and the line came out 5. Bang. You got to bet. Don't wait. So early on, it's not one of these, we talk a lot about nuances early on in the process of betting full-time for a living. You want to take advantage of where your knowledge that you've accumulated is putting you ahead of the markets. So that's when I say when you see it, bet it early on. You're ahead of the markets because you know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You basically have 2 jobs initially. All right. One is picking winners. And one is getting down on those winners at the best available number. There's the handicapping part of the process and the betting part of the process. When you watch videos online, you learn a lot about the handicapping part of the process. You learn very little in general about the betting part of the process. There's not as much out there. And that is a learned skill, is an acquired skill. Okay. Yep. It's not something that from day 1 you're going to be a great bettor. You might be a great handicapper, but concept of getting down at the best of the number or close to the best of the number on a consistent basis is not always that easy. That's why I talked a few months out. You want to be paying attention to that marketplace every single day. Start learning some of those nuances. So you recognize that it's two jobs you have, not one. You have to pick winners, but you also have to get down on those winners at the best available number. And that is a learned skill.
Yeah.
Now, your biggest edges do deserve bigger bets, even early on, especially maybe early on when you feel like this line, you're like, this is a bad number. I've done my work. I know this team. I know that team. I know the situation. This is a bad number. You absolutely deserve bigger bets. But we talk about the size of a bigger bet. We're not talking about crushingly big. Okay. You can't be betting more than 5% of your bankroll ever on any given wager. That's the reason we have 2 stars, 3 star, 5 star plays at WagerTalk Sports Memo. 5%er. A 5% play is, in theory, 5% of your bankroll. It's a significant wager. It's a massive wager. Okay. Your biggest edges deserve bigger bets. Absolutely. You see those spots. It's okay to pound them, but you don't want to pound them ever for more than 5%. Especially if you're like, this is how I'm going to live. This is how I'm going to earn my living. You can't win or lose. You can't risk it. So you can find some great bets. They're out there. They're not a ton of them, but you will find them as you do this. When you find them, recognize that sometimes those great bets lose, and your betting sizes, your biggest edges do deserve bigger bets, but not crushingly big if you lose.
Right.
Early on, day one, week one, month one. All right. You identified a team. You said, the Indiana Pacers are going to be money makers right from the get-go. All right. Okay. Those are teams you ride. Indiana Pacers come out, they lose, they fail to cover the opening day. Right. And then they fail to cover the next one. You watch the game, you're like, they totally should have covered the second game. Everything's right. Boom. Bang, bang, bang. They cover games 3, 4, 5. You are riding Indiana now. All right. When market perception and current reality don't mesh, you ride those streaks.
Okay.
And that's early on, initially, week one, day one, month one. The more streaks you can ride, positive or negative. This team's not priced correctly in the marketplace right now. They're way too high. They're way too low. You can ride those streaks and you can get on them early and take them through till their conclusion, which means till you lose. That's something that I love to do early in the season. And I'm doing. You can ride those streaks big time. This is one that's, of all the things I'm going to say, this might be the most important.
Okay, go.
Don't celebrate.
Okay. And why?
Your time to sit back and enjoy. Your time to buy some shit. Hey, yeah, I want this, that, the other. I want a new car. I want a new phone. All of that is after the entire year one is over and you're taking your break before year two. All right. You're like 3 months in. You're like, hey, I'm rolling in the dough. Let's blow some of it. And then comes your first losing streak. And then, I wish I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, okay. Brutal.
Don't be greedy. Recognize that you're doing this for a career. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. You make a bunch of money early, you cannot blow it. That's money that's supposed to be going in your bankroll, not in your Rolex fund. After the course of the entire year, okay, you're doing one sport, you're doing 2 sports, whatever it is, how many sports you decided to start with. After you finish that process, you go back, you're tracking all your records, say, hey, I did really well. Let's go celebrate. And now I know how I did the first year. Now I know how much money I'm going to need to budget for the second year. Now I have an idea of how much I can pull out to buy my Rolex or to go buy my Ferrari or whatever it is you want to buy, Not necessarily Ferrari, whatever. Buy my Toyota.
Yeah, Toyota.
and whatever else you want to buy. But you have to be able to. You're going to have great if you survive that first year, that first month. Okay, if you survive that first month, you're going to have highs and you're going to have lows.
Yeah.
Okay. If you survive the first year, you're going to have a bunch of highs and lows. And you're going to be more used to dealing with them. And you're going to have better ideas about how much I can spend, how much I can blow. But the number one thing, and the other thing was celebrate. We talked about, I'm doing really well. I'm working really hard. I got this going. I'm working every day. I'm working every night. And then you go out and celebrate and party for 3 days. And oh, wow, I just lost the next 2 weeks. You can't do it. You'll get a chance to celebrate. You'll get your chance to enjoy the fruits of your labors. That comes the next time you take a vacation or the next time you get some time off, which is after the season is done. There's all the mistakes people make, come out here 2 months in, they're like, yeah, I'm kicking ass, woo! And they have a big party and they blow a bunch of money and then it can be a problem.
Yeah.
My number one piece, and I know it's boring and I'm an old guy now. It's easy for me to say don't celebrate because I'm old and boring and I don't want to party. But so help me, don't celebrate until it's time to celebrate. It's not time to celebrate if you had you had a big day. Yeah, sure, go out and have a beer, and you're allowed to. Small celebrations are fine. It's okay. Go enjoy yourself. Hey, I remember whatever this. Early on, I had a big Sunday. I won every game. I'm like, yeah, let's celebrate. Let's go out. We'll go out and get some sushi. All right, went on, got some sushi, went home, I do my work on Sunday night. That's the type of celebration you're allowed to have.
Small, not ragers. Okay, got it. Yeah. Well, anything else, Teddy, that you want to say? Because that was kind of the last step.
Well, the last thing, and I guess this is a addendum from the last step. Just don't celebrate. And we got to talk about it a little bit. Be prepared for the high highs and the low lows.
Oh, no.
Okay, they're gonna come. If you're doing this full time, they will inevitably come. You have to be ready for it. If the highs make you too manic and you have to go out and celebrate, it's a problem. If the lows make you too depressed and you can't get your handicapping work done the next day, that's a problem too. Especially that first year. You're not jaded yet. I'm jaded, man. I'm 20-something years in this business. I don't get nearly as high or nearly as low as I did. But your first year in, you're not jaded yet. Everything's new. Every time you get punched in the face, it feels like a freaking punch in the face. And every time you get a win on somebody else's bad beat, it's crazy. Yeah, the highs are going to be high, the lows are going to be low. You're not jaded yet, so recognize that both are dangerous. They're hobbies. That's why we need something to ground us during this time. And honestly, that's my take on going from a year out until the first month in. It's a bunch of advice. It's a bunch of stuff that I've done. It's a bunch of stuff that I know other people do. And it's a bunch of leaks that I see people have that I try to help you to avoid. But honestly, that is my 2 cents on how to make a plan to bet on sports for a living, turn that plan into an action document and get it done. And I know there'll be more questions on Twitter. Please, if you have more questions, I'll be happy to follow up. I'll be happy to reply. I'll be happy to
answer them.
Any other details you're looking for. And anything we don't get to that I can't do on Twitter that's too long on Twitter, we can talk about at the start of next week's show, Missy. That would
Did you just call me Missy?
Yeah, why'd I call you Missy? Minty. I'm lost. Dude, I call it Nevada.
What the hell?
Missy. I know why. Because I was emailing Missy over and over to try to get the stuff from, I don't know why. Sorry.
Whatever. Men will always have excuses on why they call you the wrong name. It's okay. Well, that was great info, Teddy. Again, guys, check out our first episode, which was step 1 through 3 on how to make a living sports betting. This was step 4 through 6. Thank you again so much for that, Teddy. Again, if you guys have any questions on Twitter, hit us up on @WagerTalk on Twitter or @Teddy_covers. We hope that we could help you guys if you had any questions on how to even get into making a living sports betting. It's important to be smart about it, patient and consistent and responsible. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Teddy, thank you so much. I wish you the best of luck this weekend if you're betting on this UFC fight. If not, then enjoy your weekend, guys. Do not forget to subscribe to WagerTalk TV and Sports Memo on YouTube as we're streaming all our shows live on both these channels, and follow us on Twitter @WagerTalk. Thanks, guys.